A month ago, I made a video about Velodrome Finance, the leading V33 DEX. And that's not just my opinion. I have presented this based on facts. And when I say facts, I'm talking about on-chain metrics. So things that you should care about besides the price of the underlying asset. When you look at DEXs, when you look at perp DEXs, when you look at options, when you look at derivatives, so on and so forth. So financial products in a protocol on chain have different metrics versus looking at meme coins and shit coins and stuff like this. So Aerodrome Finance is basically the sister, so to speak, of Velodrome on OP, whereas Aerodrome is on Base. Alright, so when Base launched their mainnet, Aerodrome was the first DEX, or one of the first DEXs, to push their protocol on there. And they are aiming to be the leading basically trading DEX for people who want to come to Base, move their funds, and then, you know, do whatever the hell they want with it. So they had quite a controversial launch because, as usual, when it comes to these V33 DEXs, they have partners. All right, so they have people who basically want to put their token in the form of liquidity pool tokens. So I don't know, let's say if I scroll down here, you have dollar USDBC, and by the way, USDBC is the Coinbase version of USDC. So if you want to put, for example, LP in this pool, meaning inverse finance, so the people are responsible for issuing dollar. And if you don't know what inverse finance is as dollar, and I also have a video about this, I posted one not so long ago. So if they want to put their pair here, they have to bribe people to vote for their pair to acquire more APR. And by doing that, basically they bring more eyes on their pair. More people will have to either buy up dollar or mint it, and therefore they grow their circulating supply. And in order for this to happen, they have to put money. So at the beginning, they gather these partners and they give them locked versions of their native asset. So this is their native asset, Aero, and then they give them locked versions. So like Velo, you have VVelo, here you have VAero. And then this VAero that they have will help them and will give them the incentive to vote for their pair. So if you think about it, the whole cycle overall is a capital circulation cycle, but of course there's a small hole here and there, and let me explain. So for example, a protocol receives the V version of that token, so the locked version, and then for example they bribe, I don't know, $10,000 for, let's say, the dollar pool, and then they have X amount of V tokens, and then they themselves vote with all of this voting power to that specific pool. And when they do this, what ends up happening at the end is that they will most likely capture most of the bribe that they initially put in. So let's say out of 10K, they take back 9K because they have the highest voting power. And with this system overall, you know, even though they will be, you know, losing a bit of money every now and then, unless many more people come in and there's an influx of voters that want this pool, then okay, they will lose more. But over time, even though yes, that bribe money that's coming back to them will be less and less, but at the same time, what they're doing here is that they are getting more eyes on their protocol and potentially earning from for more investors that are looking at them. And people, when they see this, they want to search what that is. So what's behind this? Is there a protocol? Is there a DEX? So on and so forth. Sorry to interrupt you there, folks. I just want to quickly chime in and mention that we are currently working on a project called Numerical. It's DeFi as a service, meaning you'll get exposed to real DeFi protocols that generate real revenue, aka real yield, and you're gonna get a cut of this without doing the setup yourself. All you have to do is enter, claim, or withdraw. Very simple. So your capital is available at all times to take, and you can choose the option where to invest. More details in the description and in our community chat. So quickly, you know, referencing whatever is happening. So talking about the metrics, I'm not going to talk about the updates, but just the metrics. So first important metric is the basically LP to market cap ratio. So if you look at the price chart right now, some quick math would put you at a 0.25, 0.26 LP to market cap ratio. So for every dollar you put in, you are more or less guaranteed to get back 25, 26 cents. And this is important for me because the closer that ranges, so the closer that ratio is to 1, meaning the better off you understand that this token is undervalued. So for example, if liquidity is now 3.4 million and then market cap is at, I don't know, 4 million, then you're like, okay, something is off. Sure, more supply will be minted, but at the same time, right now, it's a good buying opportunity. Even though that doesn't guarantee that price will increase, but it's still a good buying opportunity. Now, I mentioned vVelo lockers, right? And I just want to say that overall, if you want to learn about the metrics of the platform, I'll leave a link to this below. Dune Analytics, somebody put up a good dashboard talking about most of the things that have happened in Aerodrome ever since its launch. And the good things that you will take away from here is that it wasn't just, you know, a good launch and then it died off. Even though the launch was, you know, hyped, the token price was really high, but then it plummeted, of course. Very obvious. Emissions were really high at the beginning on day one, not even day one actually, I would say the first 12 hours. But then it's not like they had the initial hype and then died off. They kept building, they kept improving, and then the TVL started growing back again. And then you can clearly see that the volume is also at a decent spot right now. So it did drop at some point, but now it picked back up again overall. They are acquiring fees because, you know, more volume equals more fees. And on top of this, the bribe money is still coming. So they still have people interested. They still have lots of pair, and all of this is still ongoing. And if you look at the log growth as well, sure, now recently it did drop a bit, but overall it's been, you know, within this range. If you just have to add the moving average line, you can clearly see that there is one and it's quite decent and it's still within that range overall. And if we scroll back down a bit, we'll see how much money was given to people who locked their tokens and voted. So overall right now, 7.1 million were rewarded to vAero stakers, or they're basically people who locked in their tokens. And out of that 7.1 million, because it's bribes versus fees coming from volume, if we do the math, quick math, all right, there is about 524 million vAero tokens out there right now. So overall, if we take a range of the bottom price of Aero versus the recent local top, and we aggregate, assuming that you have some people who bought in at the bottom and some people who bought in at the top, you'd have an APR on that locked Aero ranging from 11-ish% all the way to 67-ish%. So it's quite a decent range, meaning if you have tokens locked within Aerodrome right now, you are earning approximately a return of that much on the amount of money that they represent. So if I have $100 worth of Aero and I have bought them, let's say at the bottom, I will get $67.5 at the end of the year. Just to give you an idea of how things are happening. I'm not saying that's super impressive, but that's quite good, all right? So it's not as good as Velo, but it's a decent contestant, so to speak, because remember that optimism captures more volume than base, at least for now. And that's something that we're gonna actually touch base on really soon. From a TVL perspective, they're really close. Like if you go to DeFi Llama right now, you can clearly see that they're about 123 mil and Velodrome is about 130 mil. So TVL wise, they're quite close. I mean, look at their pairs. Their pairs, they do have some decent pairs that give decent APRs. Like you do have delta neutral pairs like USDC plus, USD plus, 23.4%. That's quite interesting. Now, mind you that you can find better options right now, especially on Arbitrum with ARP season. But still, if you just want to put your LP, stake and forget, this might be a good place for you. And I mentioned volume because the one thing that I have a small critique on and that I've noticed, unfortunately, is that this is the area that they're not, you know, super performing in. Yes, they are generating fees, everything is great, but the issue is that they are still falling short to Uniswap, even though they are only and solely, you know, focused on base, whereas Uniswap is, you know, multi-chain. They're still lagging behind, and I must say that they're really lagging behind, because if you look at the DEX volume overall, let's say the last 7 days alone, you will clearly see that Uniswap already out, you know, they are outshining them. Overall, However, they're still winning. You know, you have 124 mil versus 38 mil. So I really hope that this was a one-off due to some event and Uniswap won't take, you know, the #1 spot. But let's see, all right? Let's see what happens. But one important metric that I really discuss when I talk about DEXs is the volume to TVL ratio, and Aerodrome unfortunately doesn't have a decent one. So 0.042 is, in my opinion, quite small, and that's why perhaps the APR of the V Aero stakers is not as impressive. So if you have a bump in this, imagine if that number were equal to what Uniswap has, your APR would easily be above 100%, even if you bought at a higher price than what it's at right now. So even if you bought at 12 cents, you would have more than 100% APR if the volume is catching up. So if the platform is generating more fees than what it is right now, and I think that's their goal. I think they want to get there, but it's still a challenge for V33 DEXs to outshine the simple leading DEXs. Uniswap is a simple DEX, you know. They are the innovation of the space in terms of decentralized exchanges. They are the ones who bring, you know, newer versions of liquidity, provision, so on and so forth. But still, it's a simple, you know, token swap, and that's why it's so effective, right? But Aerodrome is a bit more than that, and in my opinion, they should put more effort into catching up at least. And I think perhaps with the latest from Velodrome, and they are working on something different in regards to their liquidity. I think they are approaching the V3 approach for the V33 DEX, and I don't think anybody in the V33 space has done this yet, because they only rely on V2 liquidity. So I think when this happens, potentially, you know, they would be, you know, in a better position overall, and of course with more people adopting Base, that will definitely be the case. So that's it. So overall, I just want to say that this is a protocol that is quite interesting, and I think, I mean, me included, I came to it when it launched and then I exited, and recently I'm coming back to it because I think the token itself is worth to hold, but that's just my opinion. I would say study the metrics more, watch this video, understand what I'm telling you here, and make up your mind, because there are many places where you can put your liquidity and earn real yield, as I always tell you. You know, that's the most important thing. Do not get, you know, married to some ROI dApp or some Ponzi, you know, like the one I mentioned recently. Do not do that. There are many better options, and it's not only about the higher number that you see on a dashboard, but it's also about all the intricacies that come with it. You know, just remember that. And with that, see you in the next one. Have a good day.